Hey guys, this is Melanie Hawk with Why Not Me Academy. Welcome, welcome. Today we have Amy Mahjoory on. You might have seen her on HGTV. She's a best-selling author. She's an entrepreneur. She's got a lot going on, but her specialty is networking and finding private money. And those are the things we're going to address today. So if you have ever thought about doing something big, or maybe you've thought about opening a business, maybe you've thought of all these different things, but you always say, I just don't have the money. Well, if you watch this episode, you're not going to have that excuse anymore, because Amy's going to walk you through how to use private money to get your business where you want it to be. And that's how I started. And at first I was like, what? I can't do that. But y'all, this is something that really can help you make your dreams into a reality, whatever that is for you. So definitely stick around, and I hope you enjoy our episode talking about private money and networking with Amy. Hey guys, this is Melanie Hawk with Why Not Me Academy. This is my good friend Amy here today with us. Thanks for being here, Amy.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So you guys, Amy's topic is so important, because when we're talking about, stop just dreaming and actually start doing, one of the biggest questions I get is, I would, but I don't have the money to do it. And we are going to talk about that and how to go from having nothing to having millions to put into your business. So we're going to dive in that in a little bit. But first, I want to get a little bit background on Amy and how she went from like nothing to all of a sudden like HGTV personality and having millions of dollars in to put towards her business. So Amy, give us a little bit of background about you and how you got where you are.
Sure. Thank you for asking. My background is very traditional, just like most people out there. I went to school, got good grades, went to college, got a corporate job, and worked and worked and worked. And then it wasn't even until I turned 30 until, I figured out what I thought I wanted to do, which was real estate. So I had no experience in that. So, I invested in a ton of coaching and mentorship, and fortunately I had a lot of immediate success in my real estate business in downtown Chicago, plenty of failures too. But what happened was, as I was building my real estate business, I ended up starting to coach and mentor others in the real estate industry. And what happened to rise to the top was my natural ability to network and connect with others and build those relationships, both on a personal level and a professional level. So many of my students came to me and said, hey, you have so much value when it comes to strategic networking. Simple things that we had never even thought of. You should write a book about it. And I actually have a copy right here.
Awesome.
And it's funny because I'm like, no way, you guys are so crazy. I'm not going to write a book, especially on networking. But I ended up doing it. And my whole career now is completely shifted. I went from corporate America into this real estate developer in downtown Chicago, and writing the book was basically my pivotal moment where I just completely transitioned into being a networking keynote speaker, a networking coach. And what I do with a lot of my students and my audience today is I teach them how to leverage from the systems around them in their day-to-day lifestyle to achieve both their personal goals and professional goals by strategic networking. So I share a lot of the networking systems and scripts and tools that I used and or developed in my book in order to get on HGTV and raise over $16 million dollars for my real estate business. But these are all things that can apply to any industry. It doesn't just have to be real estate related. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And let's just get into it, because this is awesome. This is awesome. Awesome. Okay. So when you say $16 million, you raise $16 million for your real estate business, but it doesn't just have to be real estate. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's talk about it. It was mostly through private money, right?
Yeah. And you guys, and that's what's crazy is it was 16 million as of 2 years ago. So I should probably go back and recount.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all private equity. And so many people, when it comes to raising private money, will start by telling me, I don't have any rich friends or family members.
Yep.
Now, for those of you who don't know me, I am very direct, very transparent. I don't dilly-dally. I'm not going to sugarcoat.
Yeah.
I want you to be successful. So my immediate response is, I didn't tell you to go target friends and family members. Like, who said we have to go target friends and family members for private money?
Yeah.
There are seasoned investors out there, and all they want to do is invest in businesses, angel investors. random people like me, you, your neighbors, people at the grocery store, your Uber driver, whatever, who just have a savings account and they want to earn more than 0.25% by keeping it in the bank. And so really the biggest thing is just educating yourself on what are all the benefits to somebody investing with me. Why would they want to lend me money? How can I offer them a protected, secured, and insured asset? There's a lot that goes into it, but once you understand what you're doing and you're
Yeah.
confident in what you're doing, and what you're doing is driven by data, you're not just doing something because you love it, and as long as you have faith you're going to be successful. Like, sorry, those are great things to have, but if you're running a business, you better have data to back up what you're doing.
Yeah.
So once you have that, you know who you are, you know your role, well, then it's going out there and networking, finding these people through social media, fundraising events, word of mouth, talking to your neighbors. Yes, you can also target friends and family members and just educating them. This is what I am, who I am. This is what I'm doing. Here are all the benefits to you by investing with me. And here's how I'm going to create a win-win situation. So one of the biggest things is really making that mindset shift and realizing that you're not asking for money. This should be a huge deal. You're not asking for money. You're presenting with others with an opportunity to invest with you. So once you believe that, you can raise money in your sleep.
Yeah. And they didn't even know that that was possible. So I'm picturing myself like 10 years ago when people used to like maybe throw that at, like when I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. I want to do this. Back when I was just a dreamer instead of an achiever, I guess, if that's okay to say. But back then I'd be like, oh, well, I like that same thing of I can't go to my family. Like I can't. And then when you start talking about going to people in the grocery store, going to neighbors, going to whatever, I remember somebody having that conversation with me and me being like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. I could never do that. But I love that using your networking background and your talent for networking, it really is possible. And it really is something that, like you said, as soon as I switched that mindset from begging for money to I have something that is actually a win-win situation that they don't even know what exists. So let's go back to step one, very basics. Okay. Let's say somebody wants to open a balloon shop. I don't know, something. Okay. That's their dream. Balloons make them happy. They really want to do this, but they know they need money. What is private money? Like, what would you say to them?
So private money is just any sort of cash, savings, stocks that can be liquidated, certain types of retirement accounts, not all of them, certain types of life insurance policies, personal lines of credit, business lines of credit, including credit cards that somebody has a home equity line of credit that they're not using, that you're able to use and leverage from.
Yeah.
So it's not a bank. It's not what some people like to refer to as loan sharks. It's not a publicly traded company. It's your neighbor. It is your friend, your family member, a coworker, a random person you meet on LinkedIn. I was so stubborn, and I still am. When I started my first business, I did not want my friends and family thinking they were doing me a favor, and they weren't supportive in the beginning, by the way, anyways. But still, till this day, 8 years later, I don't target friends and family members because I'm so stubborn. I don't want them to think I needed their help. And so a lot of the money that I raised was just networking on LinkedIn. I'm still not, I am terrible with social media, but it's just having goals, writing it down, and sharing your goals with others, holding yourself accountable, letting people know who you are and what you're doing. And then that's going to travel fast. Word of mouth goes a really long way.
Yeah, it's funny. Recently, Amy and I were talking about somebody in the real estate business who we both know, who's super, super, super successful. And when Amy said, well, yeah, I go to the neighborhood parties and, it gives me a chance to see if there's any, private money out there. And it like blew his mind, right? Like,
yeah, I actually couldn't believe it. This individual is very, very successful and actually pretty well known. And when I mentioned why I was going to where I was going at that time, he was like, why are you going there and doing that?
But like, that's not worth your time. Why do you go to the neighborhood party?
I thought he was joking. I was like, what do you mean? And then I explained, I'm like, hey, know your audience. Look at the type of people, the demographic that are going to be specifically at this block party, for example. Why wouldn't I go there? And it was crazy because for him to kind of have that light bulb go off and tell me that I was right, it was even more validation. But I remember I called you and I was like, can you believe that
Yeah.
it was cool? You know, I'm not knocking the guy, but it was like cool. And yeah, it made me feel good that, you know, he was like, yeah, I never even thought of that.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
it like blew my mind when you said that, because he is like one of the top in the real estate industry. So anyways, I thought that was funny. But obviously, like when you go to the block party, when you go to the neighborhood party, that's not the first thing out of your mouth. Hey, do I have any money you want to give me? So what do you say? What is the process to get this ideal dream balloon shop up and running, or whatever it is?
yeah, oh my gosh, you guys, you gotta be patient. It's not gonna happen overnight. I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and um, you know, and he's actually not in real estate. He is in jewelry, actually, jewelry and design. And he goes, hey, I have this new opportunity, you know, and I'm looking for investors now. And I said, okay, well, how long have you been looking for investors? He goes, well, I'm just starting. And he goes, I just came across the opportunity. And I said, hey, remember what we talked about 3 months ago? Raising money is relationship based lending. You want to plant the seeds, build rapport, cultivate those relationships. So it could be, for me, what I always say is I want to talk to somebody, whether it's on the phone or in person, at least 3 times. So I want at least 3 touches before I even mention any sort of a business opportunity to them. And when I do first mention it to them, it's normally indirectly. I'm never going to say, hey, I have an opportunity. Do you want to invest, on the very first time that that conversation arises?
Yeah.
So well, yeah, when I'm at the block party, I will purposely ask my neighbor, for example, oh, hey, so, you know, what are you working on these days? What industry do you focus in on? Or if they're clearly retired, oh, what did you used to do in corporate
Right.
America? Just so they ask me what I do, just so I can go into my elevator pitch at a very high level, you know, for what I'm doing. So that leads to banter, and then you just randomly go out for coffee, and then you go for a walk, and then it's, oh, by the way, I'm working on this project. Do you know of anybody, you know, i.e. you, who may be interested in learning more about, you know, how they can earn double-digit returns with a protected, secured, and insured asset,
Yeah.
whatever that means. But
I love
yeah,
that.
I mean, it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. It totally takes time. When you're talking about like indirectly, so Amy talks about how she's too stubborn to use like friends or family money. For me, that's how I started. Was my first. I was so nervous about pitching people, and I had practiced in the mirror. I had practiced to my husband, and but like I had a whole like 45-minute like true pitch. So I was talking about my full pitch, right? Actually presenting to somebody, and I was really worried about it. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to call a few people. So I actually called 3, like, not like, I don't know, LinkedIn, like second level friends, you know, like that are, you know, friends, but not like that I'm going to see every single week, but you know, that I saw like quarterly or something like that, but they were successful in their business. And I asked if I could take 45 minutes of their time to come and practice my pitch, because I really valued their opinions and that sort of thing. Well, out of the 3, my first 2 lenders came from those 3 pitches. And so they were like 2 levels deep, kind of like they weren't people I'm going to have to, you know, see at a church congregation every Sunday or something, like, because I'm not a fan of that. But it definitely was like, you know, just practicing my pitch, and they could see value in it. It didn't happen immediately, but 6 months after they saw me up and going, they're like, I've already heard the pitch. I see you're actually doing what you said you were going to do. How do you still need help? Do you still need you know, any, you know, funds? So be creative, but plant those seeds, like Amy said, and be patient with it.
That's such a great example. And, you know, and for you, it sounds like you genuinely were not targeting them. For those of you out there who do want to target somebody specifically, but you don't want to seem like you are, just do what Meilani did. Hey, you know, get a group of people together who you know, have assets or an interest in investing, and just say, hey, I want to practice with you. That was a great share.
Yeah. So with like, if you're pitching someone and it's to the point that you've planted the seeds, you're ready to actually talk about maybe borrowing money, and then you slowly drop those seeds, like you said, but then what's in it for them? I know that, you know, in real estate, you put their name on the deed, they've got a portion of it. But if this isn't real estate, what's in it for them? Why would they want to invest with somebody on a balloon shop?
So question. And now, regardless of what industry you're in, a lot of these benefits can apply across multiple industries. Really, two main things may not apply if you don't work in real estate, which is number one, what may not apply is security. Like you just said, you're going to record a mortgage under your investor's name, which is attached to that property. But look, for my friend who has the jewelry business, well before he ever even had a storefront, he went ahead and recorded a mortgage against his primary residence. So you can, again, get creative. It doesn't have to be an investment property. If you have rental properties, if you have a primary residence, yeah, record a mortgage against it or offer that. And for those of you who are freaking out saying why, but what if something happens? Well, then don't raise money. If you don't, again, have the data to back up what you're doing, you don't believe in it, and you're not ready to come to the table out of pocket, if you lose your investor's money, then don't do it.
Yeah.
For me, I currently have a lien for one of my investors recorded against my primary residence. I have recorded liens for other businesses I've started against rental properties that I have. I have talked to, although I've never pulled the trigger, to other people who have equity in their homes and asked if I could record liens against their properties in exchange for X percentage, of profit.
Yeah.
So this is how you get creative. What else may not apply if you're in real estate is the insurance. So for those of you who do work in the real estate industry, you're going to give your investor a copy of your insurance policy. You're going to add them as a beneficiary. So that won't really work unless you have a storefront of some sort. But all the other things are fine. You're going to give your investor a notarized promissory note, just summarizing the terms and agreement of what it is you've agreed to. Amy agrees to pay Melanie $100,000 plus interest at the end of the next 12 months. Failure to do so will result in, a 30-day renewal for $2,000. Now, these are things you're going to want to get, from your attorney. But aside from the promissory note, you guys, you're offering your investors a high rate of return. Every single one of my investors and all of my businesses get a 12% annualized return. Who's getting that right now? Especially right now. Look at the stock market. I took a screenshot of what the stock market did in early March, just going down, red, going down. And you know how many Americans have their money invested in the stock market?
Yeah.
Their retirement accounts. Nobody's earning 12%. Very, very few, I should say. Nothing irritates me more than walking into a bank and seeing the sign in the middle of the lobby with the balloons dangling off of it saying, park your money with us, we'll give you 0.25%.
Yeah.
So what's in it for your lender? A high rate of return, and your rates are fixed. That's another benefit. You're going to offer a fixed rate time and time again. You're building long-term relationships. You're building loyalty. There are two more benefits. Once you convert somebody into being one of your investors, 90% of the time, if not more, they will continue to reinvest with you. So there are so many benefits that they get. It's just our job as the business owner and entrepreneur to educate them, to lay it out for them,
Yeah.
and show them what those benefits are.
Oh, that's okay, guys. I'm vulnerable. I'm honest. You know that. I've been in real estate for a while now. I have raised millions, not 16 million, but I've raised millions. And to be honest, like when Amy started talking, I was like, I want to learn more about how she's doing this when they aren't backed by real estate. And hello, that idea that you could actually just put it against your personal house, like blows my mind. Like, how come I didn't even think of that? But that is awesome. Like, and if you don't understand the details of that, reach out to Amy afterwards, because she will walk you through it. And just, I promise, if it doesn't make sense, look into this more and follow Amy and learn more from Amy, because like, why did I not think of that? Of course that works. That's awesome. That's amazing. Okay. So now let's talk about like, what sources of income can, the neighborhoods, people you meet, what sources of income can they use?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so many times somebody will say to you, hey, Melanie, I love what you're doing. I understand what you're doing. And I believe in you. I would love to invest, but how? I don't have money sitting in the bank. So how can I invest with you? So here are just a handful. I may have mentioned it earlier, I don't remember, but just very quickly, for those of you who want to write this down, they could have cash at home. They could have money in the stock market if they want to liquidate. Yes, they could have money at the bank. That's the third source. Number 4 is going to be equity in their home. So a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Number 5 is going to be personal and or business credit cards. 6, personal and or business lines of credit. 7, certain types of retirement accounts. 8, certain types of life insurance policies. Is there a 9? I'm sure there is somewhere in my notes. But here are 8 ways right now. If you write them down, you can rattle them off to your potential investor. Now, still till this day, you guys, I've been doing real estate, for example, for 8 years. Still till this day, people will ask me, well, what type of retirement account will allow me to invest in real estate? You guys, I don't know. I'm not going to tell them that. So never say, I don't know. One of my mentors always told me, replace I don't know with, I don't have the answer to that right now, but I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And so here's what I do. I say, hey, great question. Let me reach out to the expert on my team who focuses just on retirement accounts, and we'll call you back within 24 to 48 hours. And I just pick up the phone. I don't have an in-house employee who specializes in that. I just call up my attorney because he's the one who set up the accounts for me. Hey, Steve, I have someone asking about, so-and-so. Can you get on the phone and just educate them directly?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how often are you paying out your people? At the end, or are you doing 5-year, 1 year, quarterly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all of my terms it's a 12-month contract. Now, once. I've had an investor twice, say they wanted to cash out twice. And that's fine. I'm not going to hold their money hostage and say, no, you signed a 12-month, contract. They wanted to get out because one was just a nervous Nelly and the other one just wanted to go buy rental property. So fine. I always say, no problem. Give me 2 weeks and I'll replace your money with another investor's. I pay for all the wire fees. And just now, though, I'm starting to get into long-term notes, anywhere from 2 to 5 years, because I'm using that to invest in rental properties.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I think this is so much good information. I just want to put a special note in here that it's really important what Amy talked about and anybody who knows our full story or has read my book knows that we had gotten to a point where at one point we were leveraged about close to $5 million, and a bunch of stuff went down, we'll say. And I was in a lawsuit with a contractor. We had 2 different properties that had drive-by shootings, either on the property or a couple houses down, that put houses frozen. Anyways, a bunch of stuff happened. It was a crummy year. And that I just went into fetal position. And I said to my lenders, I'm going to pay you off. But then they said, can I reinvest in a few? And I said, no. Like I could not borrow money, and I needed a break from borrowing money because, so with my story is that one of my lenders, she had invested about $750,000 with me, and from her or from her kids, using their deceased husband and father's 9/11 memorial fund. And I was literally having nightmares of this family who I had never met in person. But we had become close over years of me using their money and giving them a lot of money. Like it was definitely a win-win situation. And then when all this happened, I started literally having nightmares about this family. And it came to a point that I was literally throwing up, curled in a ball in my closet. I couldn't function because I had so much debt. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge what Amy said is, if you don't believe in this, and if you haven't done your research, then please don't go out and, borrow millions of dollars. However, if you have a goal, like start small, like don't go to borrowing $16 million yet, but borrow something that you've tested and that that you're not going to ever know. So I've got to stop saying that, but that you are confident in this is going to work. And you know what? Worst case scenario, you might lose that. You might have to figure out a way to make that work. so I might be rambling, but it's something I'm so passionate about that I don't want to say on this episode, go and find millions of dollars. Don't worry, you're going to figure it out. Like, that's not the case. You have to have a plan, but then you have to realize at some point, how much is it worth making the jump versus wondering if you would have made the jump? You know what I mean? And so definitely do your research and think about that. What are your thoughts on that, Amy? Sorry, I just kind of started talking.
And I know this is deviating a little bit, but to your point, Melanie, I think this is very important because it's not, once you know what you're doing, it's not hard to raise money. It really isn't hard. You know, anybody can do it with the right guidance and understanding and education. But, and I don't even know if you know this, Melanie, I went through the exact same situation as you, double the loss. 2016, terrible. I still talk about it. I share my story. I'm not private. I know we don't have time for that today, but
I love it. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, just like you, I was sick. I had over 30 investors, $11 million in debt. But you guys, here's where perseverance prevails. As a business owner and entrepreneur, even if you're just getting started, it's the tough times that define you, and how do you problem solve to get out of it. I put lenders on payment plans. I liquidated my retirement account. I sold all my rental properties. I consolidated some of my debt by getting a loan from somebody else at a lower interest rate. I did cash out advances on credit cards. I mean, I figured it out. It took me a full year, but I figured it out. And
listen to that, guys. It took her a full year. It was a year. Like, to chase after her dreams and get huge, and or get wherever she wanted to go. But then it did take a year. It didn't take a lifetime. If you're in your late 70s, 80s, whatever, I probably am not recommending you do this. But if you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you've got time to chase your dreams and then figure it out. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like, oh man, I could have thrown in the towel. I thought about throwing the towel so many times, just walking away, filing for bankruptcy, just sue me, I don't care. None of that stuff ever happened. Out of these 30 or so investors, one of them I remember right now, when I called him and told him what was happening, he followed up with me with an inspirational quote. Another one of my lenders cried on the phone with me. Another one sent me an email saying, "You'll get through this." Now, yes, that was 4 years ago. But just like you, Melanie, they continue to reinvest, because at the end of the day, they're investing in you. And when they know that you're a good person and you're going to do right by them and you're going to fix it, I mean, God, I knew I would come out of it, but now I look at all the other things that experience has allowed me to do, to rebuild my real estate business, to start other businesses, other multi-million-dollar businesses, to travel the country being a keynote speaker on the topic, multiple topics. Again, I have so many weaknesses as well, but it's like, how do we really play up those strengths and figure out how we can best serve others while working towards achieving what those goals are? Because like Melanie said, if you don't even try, you're going to always wonder, like, what if I just how would my life be different now?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say that, like, again, if you have questions, I mean, we've kind of covered a really broad. Private money is out there. You can get it. And if you believe in a product, and if you've created a product or a service that you should be able to, Amy pays 12%. I was paying 9 to 10%, and people were still hopping at it. So definitely think about it, learn more about it. But real quick, before we wrap up, we have a few more minutes. I want to talk a little bit more about your networking, like your book, what your book is based off of. What are 3 tips, especially for introverts, or especially for people who are like, I'm new at this, like, I'm not confident enough to go and pitch my business. How do I go out and network like a champ when I don't have that confidence yet? What would you say to those kind of people?
That's a great question. It's a very common question. There are very successful entrepreneurs out there, and aspiring entrepreneurs who have a great business plan, who know what they're doing. They're confident, but they're just a born introvert and they have awkward social skills. It's not their fault. And a lot of the times they will outsource being the face of their company. But sometimes you got to be the face of your company when you want to get out there and raise money. That's okay, you guys. That's your weakness. You have an amazing business model. Create a script, create an elevator pitch. I have templates for all this stuff. Create 4 or 5 sentences of an elevator pitch, practice it. It's going to take time. Record yourself on the phone, reading it, memorize it, obviously understand it. And now you know when you come across somebody new and they're like, oh, what do? You can, in a very humbling way, rattle off your elevator pitch with confidence. Even if it happens to be your elevator pitch for raising private money. You can have a general elevator pitch for your business, one for raising money, one for whatever. Another tip that I'll give to my introverts is there's a list of 10 questions that I usually will practice with my introvert clients. And, it's 10 general questions that you can go into any networking event, any social function, and just ask. Just because you're at a networking event, for work, you don't have to talk about work.
Yeah.
Hey, what brings you here today? Are you here with your family? Is there anything I can do to help you? It's just general stuff. It's your body language, your posture, what to wear, pulling your hair back. There's so many things that you can practice at home before you get out there and really, test your social skills.
Yeah. Well, and just doing it. I just saw a memory on Facebook pop up from, I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it's funny because at that point, I was still in a depression about some of the things that we've talked about. And to think I can't even remember that happening because I was in such a depression. But that choice to get back out there and that choice to go back to the networking events and to go to the networking events that actually are the networking events that have the people you want to be with. Don't just start going to everything. Like some people say, just start going to everything. I found very fast with 5 kids at home that if I was going to a networking event, I had to know that there was going to be at least one person, and I usually have 3, that by the end of the night, I'm not leaving the event until I've talked to those 3 people. So definitely, some people might just say go to all of them. If you have that much time, great. If not, and you're a mother and you need to go home and feed your kids, then choose the ones that are going to be the best for your money or time to go to these events. Because for me, it was babysitter money. It was like, okay, my husband's on a work trip. I got to pay a babysitter. So it's got to be worth this much money, but in the long run, right? So definitely just get out there and start doing it. And that's what builds your confidence. And I think in this day and age also, the way that you can kind of accelerate that also, even though Amy talked about not being great at social media, is by using social media. And that's a great way to kind of dabble in the waters by showing what you're doing without actually having to have the face-to-face conversations. But then I know that every single, I can't think of any of my lenders that have not looked at my social media profile to see if in some way, maybe it was my LinkedIn, maybe it was my Facebook, maybe it was my Instagram, maybe it was my website, to see how legit I was. I mean, because that's dumb. They're about to drop, $500,000 with me or whatever. They're going to look at it. Or sometimes even just $5,000, whatever it is. So definitely make sure that you're putting the things in place that even if your confidence isn't there yet, that your presence is where you want to be. Okay. I'm not going to say fake it till you make it, because that's so cliche, but you're not faking it. You are putting out your product, your service, and then to speak for you, even when you can at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, and just to kind of just wrap what you just said, you don't want to practice a script. You don't want to write a script. You don't want to do any of these things that 2 seasoned experts right here are telling you guys. Fine, don't do it. Go get a coach. Go get a mentor.
Yeah.
But you better be ready to listen to them, because it's not going to make any sense for you to invest in coaching and mentorship if you're not going to listen to them. They will get you to the finish line. I'm sure I speak for the both of us, Melanie, when I say, we have invested well over 6 figures on ongoing coaching, mentorship, both for me, personal coaching, professional coaching. I have a therapist. I never thought I would be that person, especially the way I grew up saying, oh yeah, I got to go talk to my therapist today.
Yeah.
It's how can we become the best polished versions of ourselves, personally,
Yeah.
professionally, and ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. And like Amy said, we've spent a grip of money on coaches, but at the same time, I really like my life. So I look back and I think, you know what, even there are some of those coaches that I was like, at one time or another, I was like, maybe that was a waste of money. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know what? It still got me to where I am today. So it turned out great. You know what I mean? In fact, one of our mentors that Amy and I both have this same mentor about 5 years ago, I remember when I first heard him say, just sign the contract, like on a property. This was back in real estate. Just sign the contract. And within a week, you'll find the money. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so much more confident in me than I am. But I love that he was, and that mentor was able to like, be like, and he just like, was like, oh, don't worry. You'll find the money. You'll find the $400,000. You'll find the $700,000. And it's like, but he believed in me. And you know what? I did. Every single time I did. And I believe in anybody who's listening to this that you can too. And I know Amy does too. Amy, do you have anything else to add before we kind of wrap up here?
I mean, you guys just do it. And I should be taking my own advice with all the things that I want to do as well. But just do it. Here, this is write this down. One of my mentors, it might be that same mentor, shared with me a very motivational speech from a gentleman by the name of Art Williams. Some of you may have heard of him. If you go to YouTube and you do a search for Art Williams, just do it speech. Do you know who I'm talking about, Milani?
Yeah, I do.
So it's an 18-minute video, but you guys, this video was recorded over 30 years ago, and he's talking. It's a motivational talk. But listen to it because it applies to so many of us today as entrepreneurs and business owners. And basically Art's message is just do it. Like, we could all find excuses, but just do it. You're going to have regrets. You're going to wonder why. I've watched it over 50 times. I always laugh at like minute markers 16 or 17. But it's really good. And it's, especially now, you know, we have a bunch of downtime, take advantage of it. So
awesome. Okay. So where can people find you, find your book, that kind of stuff, Amy?
You can find a copy of my book on Amazon. The title is Networking with a Purpose. You could just search by my last name, Mahjoory. I don't know, figure it out, Mahjoory. Or my website, amymahjoory.com. I'm sure Milani will put it somewhere, how to spell my last name.
We'll put it in the
I do manage my own social media.
I was just going to say, I spell your last name. It is Mahjoory. Okay, keep going. Your Instagram.
No, I was just saying, I respond to all my Instagram and LinkedIn messages. So connect with me on Instagram. I'm going to start posting some more educational content out there. And yeah, whatever I can do to help you guys, I am here for you.
She's awesome. Thank you for being here, Amy. I really appreciate it. And yeah, hope you guys will be encouraged that you can't use that excuse anymore of, I totally would. I've got this great idea, but I just don't have money to do it. You can't use that anymore. You listen to this episode. If you need a mentor, go to Amy. She's awesome. But yeah, thanks for being here, Amy.